Think we are live. So this is going to be a quick I'd say quick, I don't know how long we're going to go here, stream, as we're going to talk about my thoughts on the last episode of Game of Thrones. It's been a show, for sure. I really like it for the most part, except for a lot of stuff that happened in this last season. But I will say, with everything, I'm not as mad about this episode as I thought I was going to be. Coming off the last couple episodes, writing wise, the last couple episodes for me were terrible. I absolutely could not stand it. And honestly, this episode was just it kind of just happened. Like there wasn't a lot in there that I was super upset with, and there also wasn't a lot that I was like super jazzed about. It kind of just went. And the cinematography was great. There was some amazing cinematography this episode. The shot of Tyrion and the small council table, the shot of like Dany and the wings of Drogon opening up behind her. That was really good. There were some great shots of Jon looking to the left, and like the conflict was clear. Kit Harington did a great job. All the actors, for the most part, did a great job, and I really liked the cinematography and I liked the acting, but that's the way it's always been, right? Game of Thrones has always had great acting for the most part, great cinematography for the most part, especially this last season. The cinematography has been great. However, I understand, King. I understand. You should go because spoilers are coming in right now. You can watch this later. And again, I don't know how long we're gonna go. We're just gonna talk about it. However, man, decisions were made, and I don't hate them. A lot of them. Um, just like decisions in the last couple episodes, I haven't hated the decisions they made. I've hated how they got there. And in a lot of ways, this one was that again. Um, I really, I don't know. I guess I'm super ambivalent about how all this turned out. I think that it could have been done better. Um, but for the most part, like Bran winding up as king, that's fine. Um, I'm not super angry about that. I still don't think he's the best choice, but I kind of called it with some of my friends. Wasn't 100% sure, and technically he did not sit the Iron Throne. The Iron Throne doesn't exist anymore, and that scene was great. But I don't like the explanation for why Bran needs to be king. The idea of he is our story, sure, yeah, I'm with that. That sounds great, but we should have had more setup throughout the series of story. Like there should have been more mentions of the books. Is all over the place in the books where stories are told and legends are forgotten, and people are trying to get legends told again, and they want to hear more about this story, or this story has been forgotten. And it's great, right? The idea of a story coming up in the books all the time and how important your story is. Like that's what's really motivating Jamie's character a lot of times in the book, is that his story is empty. And there's a really great scene I'm going to get to in a minute with Brienne. But I just think it could have been implemented a little bit better if in the show we had seen more callbacks to the idea of a story and the idea of telling a story. I think that speech from Tyrion would have made a lot more sense and would have been something a little bit more worthwhile, and made that whole scene a little bit easier to take, easier to swallow, of everybody just deciding Bran's king now. But let's try and go in chronological order. I have a lot of thoughts about the stuff with Bran, but let's try and go in chronological order because we also have the stuff with Dany. And I think a lot of that stuff, again, I talked last time about how I don't think they sold the idea of her turning into a Mad Queen very well in the show. I think it's a fine idea. I think you can get away with it just fine, but I don't think they gave it the proper setup in the show for it to be able to work. No sense worrying about that now, right? It's too late. She's already done the deed. Now we have to deal with the fallout. And I think everybody walking through the city was cool. Uh there's still way more Dothraki and Unsullied than there should be, and that actually like is a problem. Like, so often we talk about plot holes and we talk about nitpicks and how something doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, you know? But this time it does. This time it is an actual, because it affects the story in a really major way. It winds up being a problem later on that there are this many Dothraki left and this many Unsullied left. And if there weren't this many Dothraki and Unsullied, things that happened would not have happened. And so you wind up in this situation where there's this entire army that shouldn't exist anymore. Especially with the way Dany was burning everything. Her people should not be here anymore either. And she is now the most powerful figure, the most powerful person, the most powerful anything in all of Westeros. And there's this really great scene as, you know, Dany has given her whole speech and Jon has walked up and he doesn't know how to feel about any of this. And Tyrion walks up and just pulls off the hand. Throws it. He's like, nope. You made this. And she's like, you betrayed me. He's like, yeah, but you made this decision. You killed thousands, millions. And it's so true to Tyrion's character. He knows what's going to happen to him now, but what does it matter? And I'm not in chronological order because I haven't had any time to think on this at all. I haven't had any time to sit on this. This is my raw reaction to the episode. And I really like what they did with Tyrion in this episode. I think it's really good. I just wish that scene with him and Bran at the King's Moot, I guess you could call it, had been set up a little bit more. You also have the really great grieving scene where Tyrion finds Jaime, and that's a really powerful scene. The way they do that's really nice. The fact that the tear follows the track of his scar is really cool. Again, you know, wouldn't care for Cersei at all. The fact that Tyrion climbed through there means they probably could have too, even though Jaime would have died anyway because Euron. But they probably could have got out. Regardless, it was really great. I just wish that it had not come at the cost of Jaime's entire arc. But I still think that scene's really good. That grieving scene with Tyrion. And it leaves him with nothing left, right? So when he does go to Daenerys, then he can throw that hand away and be like, no, not anymore. And all this, of course, is set up for Jon killing her, something that literally everybody predicted. And it's okay. It doesn't have to subvert expectations. It's okay for it to be what we predicted because it's following the route of the story, right? And so when Jon stabs her, I actually really liked that scene. I thought for a second that she was going to then call out Dracarys or something, or that she was going to push off the dagger. But for just a second, you have the idea of maybe Jon is deciding to work with her. Maybe her crazed idea of breaking the wheel and forcing everybody else to submit could work, and then he stabs her. And it was really well done, I think. I think it was a really nice way to do it. It hangs on him holding her for a little too long. It's a little overdramatic in that way, but I really liked that shot of him holding her and like her falling back and the blood dripping out and just being in the throne room as it pulls back to show the whole throne room. I thought that was really good as well. Dany's scene with the Iron Throne and it coming down to that she never actually gets to sit on the Iron Throne. That was a really good scene as well. I really liked that. It's kind of, I guess, right for the character that she has become, that she's come all this way and it's just right there and she can't sit on it. And then Drogon, in his anger, burns the throne away. And that's a really nice scene as well, I think. I think it actually, it fits this dragon that's angry. The only thing I wish is that he had breathed fire on Jon as well, and then Jon not be affected by the fire because he's a Targaryen. I thought that would have been really cool. But either way, burning down the throne and then grabbing Dany and flying away, there's now just a dragon in the wild that has to be dealt with. So that's cool. And then we get to one of my major problems with the episode. We just time skip weeks ahead of time, just boom. And I've completely skipped the scene with Tyrion and Jon. I'm sorry, again, I just came off the episode with Tyrion and Jon, and when Tyrion convinces him to kill Daenerys. That's a really powerful scene as well. I think those actors have a really good on-screen chemistry. It's been them since basically the start, and I thought it was really cool to see how far they've come and have this moment. I still, again, think they could have got here a little bit different, a little bit more fleshed out, but I thought it was a really good moment together. Also, a little weird thing. almost all the Dothraki that you see have blood on their cheek. On the same, like in the same area. Like somebody was just like, oh, slap, 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 slap with blood as they were going by. Which is just a little interesting thing. But we time skip. And it's been weeks. And the Unsullied have captured Tyrion and Jon for killing Daenerys. They have not killed Jon for some reason. I guess because the Northmen are there. Like it's implied that the Northman army is here and they would have a problem with Jon's death, but the Northman army came with Sansa, right? When she came down, I don't know. Regardless, I mean, we can't know, right? Because it doesn't show us because it time skips. But again, the shot in episode 4 of there's like what 50, maybe 40 Unsullied left, and there's no Dothraki that we could see. The Dothraki were going with Jon, so they wouldn't be there, you know, but they're also, we watched the Dothraki die in episode 3. So the fact that there is an entire army's worth of Unsullied and Dothraki that have occupied the ruins of King's Landing means that we now have to have this council scene. And I thought the King's Moot was cool, but there shouldn't be Unsullied to hold the city. There shouldn't be Dothraki to cause this problem where Jon can't just be fine and Tyrion can't just be fine. And so it feels kind of contrived that it's because the Unsullied multiplied off screen that this is even happening. And I really dislike that. They'd put the entire scene off for me the whole time because there shouldn't be an army of Unsullied left. They should all be gone. Most of them died at the Battle of Winterfell, and then even more of them died when Euron surprised Dany's fleet, and it's just, it immediately made me go, okay, so there's exactly how many Unsullied as there needs to be at any given time. From there, the King's Moot happens, and it felt a little weird to be like, oh, you remember this guy, the Blackfish's nephew. Now we're gonna make him the butt of a joke just for the fun of it. And it was like, well, I mean, he's always been that character, you know? But it seems like he might have learned something from being in prison for a long time. Nah, at least we got to see him again, though, I guess. And Jon Arryn. We got to see Jon Arryn again. Not that he really does anything. We also got to see the unnamed Prince of Dorne. So that was cool. And the big council has come together, and they want Jon freed, and they want Tyrion freed, you know? And then Grey Worm goes, it's not good enough. We need somebody, you know, justice has to be done. And so Tyrion suggests they crown a king. Sure. Or queen, whatever, makes sense. And there's this long moment where nobody is getting chosen. And then Tyrion goes, it should be Bran. And I was like, why? I get it, right? The idea that he's the three-eyed raven, he sees the past, apparently can see the future, even though I was pretty sure he said that he could only see the past. Only what has been, not what will be. I'm pretty sure that's a line, but not 100% on that. But apparently he can see the future too. The guy they should have been using all this time to know all this was happening. And he's like, you know, hey, this is our story. He knows he is our living story. He's our living legacy. And it just felt a little forced to be like, you know, hey, we need a king. And this guy is everything. He's all the past and everything. So he should be the king because he can rule us the right way. And I mean, I agree. I do think Bran is the best choice for the throne because he can literally see the past and he knows history inherently. It's always in him. He won't make the mistakes that previous kings have made. But make that argument instead of he tells the story. Like, okay. And then, like, Sansa's like, he can't have any kids. Which is another good reason for him, because as Tyrion puts it, it lets them then decide on another king. And so, it's a little interesting that at the end of the day, a king is now elected by committee at the end of Game of Thrones. And, you know, everything started because a king was selected by blood and then by strength. And so now we have the third option of by committee, by choice. And I thought that was kind of cool. It's a little weird who all was chosen. Like, why does Davos have any say in this? Why does Brienne have any say in this? Uh, I mean, the rest were the lords, right? But I could not understand why they had a single bit to say. And then Sansa takes the North out of the Seven Kingdoms. And so this is another thing that I have a problem with, because her reasoning for it makes sense. The North has lost too much in all these constant wars and doesn't want to kneel again. They kneeled to the King of the North. The King of the North killed the Dragon Queen. They're done. They don't want to serve any more kings. They don't want to serve any more queens. They're done. However, I would argue every single person sitting there, except maybe the Prince of Dorne, since Dorne never really did anything in the show, has lost just as much of their people, and in some places more. And so they have just as much right to then secede from the Seven Kingdoms and no longer be under King Bran. And they all just go with it. And I was like, oh, here we go. There's about to be a fight, because people are going to be like, the Vale has lost all of our knights after coming to the North's aid, and now the North would leave us behind. And Gendry would be like, Storm's End has nothing. You can't, no, we lost it all. No. But everybody's just like, yeah, that makes sense. The North fought the hardest. Did they, though? They didn't really. And so the other problem I have with this is that by leaving the Seven Kingdoms, they then become a target later. Like, this solves the problem for now, but does not solve the problem forever, because eventually the other six kingdoms, when another king is chosen years down the line after Bran's gone, the other six kingdoms are going to get upset that Winterfell is not, that the North is not a part of the Seven Kingdoms anymore, and they're going to fight back. They're gonna take it over again. And so all Sansa has done is buy the North time, because eventually the rest of the kingdoms are not going to be happy with this, and it's all just going to break down again when they had a chance to be at peace. And it just really bugged me, because I understand where Sansa's coming from, but she's not thinking it through. And I feel like it only happened so they could have that scene of Sansa being crowned Queen of the North. Which, again, they're not gonna bow the knee again, huh? Because they did. And maybe it's different, bowing to themselves. But so Bran is a Stark. So it just feels really weird. Again, it feels like they just wanted that scene of Sansa being crowned, and there wasn't any build up to the idea of that the Northmen would not bow again. And then they bowed again. So it's just, because Bran's already from the North. He's a Stark, you know? They could have bowed to him the same way they bowed to Sansa. It changes nothing for them, other than that later on in the future they're going to get completely taken over again. So that really bothered me. From there, the episode just kind of becomes fine. Like, there's some really great moments, there's some really moments, but from there it's just like, yeah, okay, we got to wrap all this up. So you get Jon's arc of, he's a crow, and then he is beyond the wall, and then he's Knight Commander of the Commander of the Night's Watch. Then he's King of the North. No, then he dies. Then he comes back. Then he's King of the North. Then he's Warden of the North. Then he's Queenslayer. Then he's a crow again. So his arc just kind of does this big circle, and in a way he's worse off than he was before, because now he has these doubts about, like, if what he did was the right thing, and he died before, and that still clearly bothers him when Tyrion brings it up. But he's also in a better way, because he doesn't have any of the responsibility he didn't want, and now he's riding out north with the wildlings, and he's back with Ghost again, and he pet Ghost. Huge points there for me. He pet Ghost. Thank you. I guess proving that he's a Stark again. But it just felt, his arc is weird, you know? Like, his arc from the beginning to the end has been, I guess, to kill Dany. And now he's gone from all the politics and everything. He's no longer a part of any of it. And the world just moves on, you know? Why did the dragon not kill him? My assumption was because he's a Targaryen. I really wish Drogon had breathed fire on him and it just not affected him, and then Drogon been like, all right, peace, I'm out. But Jon's arc just feels really weird to me now, because it kind of doesn't have a resolution, you know? He didn't come to terms with coming back from the dead. He didn't come to terms with who he is. He's always been as much Stark as he thought he was before. And so nothing really changes there. He got some really good lines this episode, and he had some really interesting moments. I still really like the scene where he kills Danny. And I thought the line of him saying, "Our house sigils aren't burned into our skin," or however he worded it. Again, I just came off the episode. I haven't put any thought into anything really. I thought that was a really good line. But his arc just kind of doesn't come to anything other than killing Danny. Like, that's his goal, I guess. That's been the point of his character this whole time. And after that, he's just kill Jon Snow, going off north with Tormund and the Wildlings. And it felt like a thing of Bran being like, I'm going to give him a punishment that Grey Worm will agree with, but also I'm going to let my brother go free. And that was kind of cool, but it also super was not a punishment, really. Bran as a king, I'm not upset with. Again, I think that's an okay decision. I think the idea of a man who will not make the same mistakes from the past is really good. That's the way they should have pitched it, instead of just he's telling the story. And Bran is more of Bran again in this episode. He's not just sitting there and doing nothing. He's actually talking and being a part of the conversation. He had some pretty good little one-liners too. Why do you think I'm even here? Although, again, that calls to the fact that I was pretty sure he said he couldn't see the future, but I can, so whatever. Arya's arc feels really weird to me. The idea of she got trained to be an assassin because she wanted to get revenge. She throws away revenge last episode. Her other motivation this whole time has been to be with her family. So now that she doesn't have revenge, I was like, she's going to be with her family now. She's going to support King Bran, or she's going to go back north with Sansa, or something like that. She just leaves. She leaves Westeros to go explore. And she gets a Stark ship with like a Stark banner on the front. And it was like, okay, that's a Stark figurehead. Like, that's a who paid for that? Arya didn't pay for that. Did Sansa pay for that? Regardless, she goes west and she's just gone. She's not there to help the family anymore. Like, Jon at least has a reason why he can't come back, you know? Arya just pieces out. So her entire character is really weird for me now. Because the whole idea for her was being with her family, getting back to her family, protecting her family, and then avenging her family. And once she threw the vengeance away, I was like, well, yeah, she'll be with her family now. And I guess the point is that she's wandered too far, and now she can't go back. But, you know, yeah, and exactly, she's a part of the royal family. She can't just leave. But she does, so, you know, Sansa's arc is kind of complete, but again, it feels that ending feels like a misstep for me. The fact that Sansa has brought the North to what should be peace, but is actually just going to turn into war again, because eventually the other six kingdoms are going to get upset that the North is the only one that gets to rule themselves, and they're going to attack it. And so her becoming Queen of the North doesn't really feel like a complete arc for her either. Her arc was always she wanted to be the queen. She wanted to be royalty. She wanted to be special. And then, like, the whole thing comes around where it's not like she's decided she doesn't need to be the queen. She doesn't need to be the one in charge. She can just be the smart one. She can just protect what's left to her. She can protect the North. And so her becoming queen just feels odd to me at the end of all that. I would have much preferred if she was just Warden of the North and the North was still a part of the Seven Kingdoms. Also, we're now in a situation, and I'll get to that question in just a second, Mojo, but we're now in a situation where the Night's Watch exists again. So all these six kingdoms will be sending their prisoners to a different kingdom. Like, they're all ruled by Bran. They're now all sending their prisoners to a place ruled by Sansa. And that feels really strange to me. The idea that they're just going to send their prisoners to another kingdom so they can deal with it. Like, okay. Also, the Night's Watch, it needs to now just be basically a prison. There's not anything for them to do because the Wildlings are working with Jon and are good people now, right? They're not trying to fight down south, even though they fought for their entire life to try and get down south. Now they just want to go back. So, that feels weird. Yeah, what would have happened if they? I mean, Arya killed the Night King. She was just as viable an option, right? To be queen. Guess she would have just left. I don't know. She'd have turned it down, I suppose. But it makes it makes it really strange for Sansa's character arc. And you may be right there, Mojo. Maybe Jon did just leave the Night's Watch and just go north anyway. It looks like, because when he looks back at the gate, he then turns back and smiles. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's like, you know what? I'm up here now. Nobody can stop me. See ya. Who else's arc do I want to talk about? Grey Worm's arc is okay, I guess. The idea of I'm gonna now go to Noth, sure, that's great. Grey Worm gets to go and see Missandei's home. That's fine. Bran's arc, I guess, as a character from the beginning, he his motivation was just to try and survive, and now he's king. He became the Three-Eyed Raven. His goal was to stop the Night King. Stop the Night King. Now he's king. Sure, he'll be. I still think he'll be a good king. I think the scene with the small council was really cool. Bronn's the master of coin now for some reason. I guess because he owns Highgarden and is now the richest guy around? Sure. I mean, honestly, who's left that's really good with coin, right? Davos is the master of ships. That makes perfect sense to me. Brienne's a Queen's Guard. Or King's Guard. Pod's a King's Guard. Sure. Thought it was a little weird that when Pod walks up to grab the back of Bran's chair, he gives the camera just this winning smile. I was like, okay, yep, that's definitely Podrick. Don't know why we had to call it out like that. Yeah, it was just really strange. Sam's the Grand Maester now. That's fine. I'm fine with that. I wish that it hadn't been so rushed, and I wish they hadn't just time skipped, and I wish we'd had another season. They all laughed when it was suggested to let people vote. Yeah, the democracy idea was shot down really quickly. That was pretty funny. But then nobody did anything when Sansa was like, I'm just going to take my kingdom and go. Thanks. It still really bothers me. And then the book thing. There's actually two different book things I want to talk about. The idea of the book, The Song of Ice and Fire, it was set up with the Maesters before. So sure, that's fine, I guess. I thought it was a little on the nose. It was a lot on the nose. But sure, okay. I'm not gonna get super mad about that. Tyrion not being in the book was pretty funny. I'll give you that. The other book scene was way better to me though, with Brienne writing in Jaime's story. It kind of came across as like we shouldn't let the woman who's in love with the guy write the story because she's building him up a little bit too much. But I thought it was really cool to see that Jaime's legacy will actually be told as if he had made the right choices all the way through, despite the fact that he made a lot of mistakes. Jaime Lannister being my favorite character, I was very happy to see that his legacy will live on in the Book of the Kingsguard. I thought that was really cool. And then it kind of ends. Bran's king, Sansa's queen, not of the same kingdom. Ho ho. Jon's going north of the wall. I guess he's technically the king beyond the wall now, like Mance Rayder was. And Arya's just leaving. She's just peacing out. Sure, I guess. We didn't get a single line from Gendry in all this other than I. So I guess Storm's End will be fine. We never even got to learn the Prince of Doran's name. Yara is, I guess, fine with King Bran. She didn't seem to object to it too much, despite being super Cersei, or super Dany the whole way, not super Cersei. There's no revolution that we can tell because of what Dany did. It seems like Jon killing her kind of put all that down. I don't know. It kind of just ends after that, and it's strange. I think the way that it all wraps up, because it just feels nothing's wrapped up well enough that I'm like, yeah, that was a good ending, but it's also not left like open and bare enough that I'm like, man, that was terrible. I'm just kind of ambivalent on the ending. It's just kind of, I'm sure if I think about it long enough, I'll find some more super glaring plot holes, like the fact that if the Unsullied army hadn't been there, that shouldn't have been there, that didn't exist, but then repopulated and did exist, then none of that would have happened with choosing a king, and Jon would have been king of the Seven Kingdoms. But sure, sure, you know, I don't know. It's a really weird feeling. This ending, it leaves me just feeling kind of empty, and that's not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was either going to be really great or really terrible. Tyrion was great in this episode. Jon was great in this episode. We got some great Jon looks at the camera and looks off to the side. I don't know. Like, what do I say? You know, it just, we are now in a post Game of Thrones world where Bronn of the Blackwater is the master of coin. Davos Seaworth is the master of ships. Brienne leads the Kingsguard. Samwell Tarly is somehow the lord of the Tarly's estate and the Grand Maester. Don't know how that works. And Tyrion is the hand of the king, and Brandon the Broken is king of the six kingdoms. Sure. I don't like it. I don't hate it. It's just odd and weird. And I don't know how I feel about it. Maybe within the next couple days, the next couple hours, who knows, I will come to hate it or I will come to love it. Again, I will say the cinematography was great this episode. Cinematography was amazing. They did such a good job with the cinematography. The shots of the Drogon's wings coming out behind Dany, the shots of the spears on the ground, and you can see the effect that the haft of the spear were making. The shot of Tyrion throwing his symbol of the hand, the shot of Dany being killed, the shot of Dany with the throne, the shot of Drogon burning the throne, the shot of the small council and Tyrion fixing the chairs. There were some really great shots in this episode, and there's been this whole season of great cinematography. The music was on point, but the writing just leaves me feeling empty in a lot of ways, and it really feels like they just rushed to this ending without a lot of build-up. I'll leave with this, and then we'll stop, and you can hear my thoughts more, I suppose, on the podcast tomorrow. But I just wish for Tyrion's speech, where everybody agreed with it and was like, yeah, Bran should be king, I just wish that had been set up better. The idea of a story, you know, the idea of a story it's in the books everywhere, and it should have been more in the show to make all those characters go, yeah, Bran is the one who remembers. He is the one who is the living story. She did die way too fast from that knife. I thought she was going to, like, come back and kill him for a second there. Well, these have been my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Let me know how you felt about the episode. If it made you feel odd or great or anything like that. Or in the chat if I see all that stuff. But yeah, Game of Thrones is done. I guess now we get the fan rewrites and we get the breakdowns and we get all that stuff for the entire series. I want to make a video on the entire series. I'm probably going to have that within the next couple weeks. But Game of Thrones is done. No more Reigns of Castamere, no more Light of the Seven, no more any of it. No more Jaime, no more Tyrion. HBO does need another big hit. We need another big Game of Thrones. And I think they've got that new Golden Compass series that I'm hoping will hit off and be popular and big as Game of Thrones. Until next time, everybody, I have been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. And remember to always enjoy the full spectrum. Game of Thrones. Passed off. Later, everybody.